Hey friends, and welcome to Jess VS. Today I am joined by a very special guest. This is my beautiful mother, Denise. Today we're going to be talking about writing. So first off, what do you do? What is your occupation?
Okay, well my official title is Director of Accreditation and Standards, which basically just means I talk to the government.
She's fancy.
About higher education.
Cool. Well, how does writing fit into that? What made you want to start writing?
I think probably it was from my dad, really. Read stories to us all the time, when bedtime stories when we were going to bed. Black Beauty, Call of the Wild, Shadow the Sheepdog, all those ones. And we'd just he'd read them until we knew them basically off by heart.
Yeah.
So I just used to love stories. And one of my heroes was Hans Christian Andersen.
Oh, yes.
And I just thought, I want to grow up to be like him one day.
Who doesn't? So I guess part of that plays into like what inspires you. You said you always wanted to be like Hans Christian Andersen. What inspires you now to write?
I think now, working for Alpha Christus College, which is a Pentecostal college, I'm inspired by people's stories, just life stories, the amazing things that people have done, and whether they're still with us or whether they've gone. I just love to hear how people have contributed to their community, to society. So, yeah.
Well, that actually works pretty well with the question that one of you guys actually asked, and that's how do you know when something's worth writing about?
Yeah, I guess I'm just drawn to it.
Right.
Some things I'm not drawn to, some things I am. I just hear about something and then I find out a little bit more, ask a few more questions, read a bit further, and then sometimes something that initially seems pretty simple and straightforward, when you dig deeper, it just opens up and it's just incredible.
Yeah. Going back to inspiration a little bit, do you think that inspiration is needed when it comes to the kind of books that you write, like biographies and kind of non-fiction writing?
Yeah, definitely. And I know what it feels like when it's not there.
Yeah, well, how do you fix that then when
yeah, well, I mean, it's just not. Sometimes you're on a deadline, the publisher wants it by a certain date, they want, a particular format that maybe is not what you wanted.
Yeah.
So sometimes you just got to do the hard yards and plug away.
Right.
One of my favourite quotes is from William Carey, who said, I'm a plodder.
Right.
And he just said, I just keep going, just one foot in front of the other. And I do that a lot as well. But then you get moments of inspiration. I remember sitting in a dusty old archive in the middle of China one time and just freezing cold. I think I had blankets wrapped around me and just thinking, why am I doing this? And then all of a sudden I just found, exactly what I was looking for or needing. And then just that inspiration came. So it can come, I believe it's from God, that it just comes at an unexpected time, and it's exactly what you need at the right time.
That's great. Oh. I like hearing stories about China days and stuff like that. What do you think is the difference between writing non-fiction and writing fiction? Like, I'm a fiction writer, but you're primarily non-fiction. What do you think the difference is with that?
Well, there's a lot of similarities and there are differences as well. I think with my writing, I still like telling stories.
Right.
So even though it's non-fiction, I like to write in an interesting way to grab people's attention.
Yeah.
Because I write about history and a lot of people think that it's boring, and it's just not. Yeah. It just depends how you tell the story. And so I think, that can be creative. You can be creative in non-fiction. Likewise in fiction, I think you can also do a lot of research as well. So they're both very similar in that sense. If you do your research well, you can tell the story well, whether it happened or not, because there seems to be that you have to build a big picture in the reader's mind, a lot of description and character, which I think can come from research as well, or even used from real life experience.
I like that you like to tell stories because history is interesting. I mean,
yeah, I say I'm an archaeologist of people's brains.
That's awesome.
So I dig into people's memories and grab their stories. I remember one guy saying to me, you do realise that you're asking me things that happened 76 years ago? I go,
I knew that.
But another old proverb that I like is every time a person dies, a library burns down.
Oh wow.
And that's true, each time someone's gone and we haven't captured their memories and their stories, that's just like a whole library that's gone. So I'm big into oral history. I love interviewing people and hearing, what they've contributed to life. And I seem to make people cry a lot. Almost every interview I do.
Happy tears?
Well, I think it's, when someone sits with you for an hour and a half or 2 hours and they've, I've sort of drawn out their memories and they've seen their life flash before them in 2 hours. They see the goodness of God, and they see, I like to show people that their life has been worthwhile and that they've made a great contribution.
Wow. That's amazing. Looking at some of the interviews that I've seen that you've had to record so that you can watch back, just the way that you communicate to people and the way that they respond back to you, I've always admired that. Another question that one of you guys asked was, how do you keep putting out the same information without making it sound like you're repeating yourself, like having to talk on the same topic over a number of chapters but keeping it fresh still?
Yeah, so I think it's important to have a theme. Like, you have to know who your audience is, you have to know why you're writing it and what you want to achieve. And so sometimes repetition is actually good. For example, in academic writing, you continually reminding the reader what your point is that you're trying to argue. So that's not a bad thing. Repetition's not always bad. It becomes bad when maybe you forgot that you already wrote that paragraph or told that story in chapter 3 and there it is again in chapter 10. So that's why proofreading is really important. You need to avoid that. You need to avoid repeating words too often. I read back on a paragraph and I've said because 3 times in one paragraph or something. So you have to be careful and trying not to repeat yourself. But I think in terms of bringing a theme across or trying to convey an idea, I don't think that there's anything wrong with maybe saying it a slightly different way or bringing it from a different angle. So I won't say the same information again ever. I don't like that because repetition is quite annoying for a reader. It's like, well, you already told me that. But if you say it in a different way or come from a different angle or have a different point that you're trying to make, then I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
That's okay. You've written 5 books now and done numbers of other writings as well. I was wondering, would you be able to tell us a little bit about the publication process? Because I don't know if many of you guys know this, but there's a long process that goes far beyond just the actual writing of a book or essay or anything like that. There's beforehand things, and then there's during the actual writing process, and then there's afterwards as well. So would you mind telling us a little bit about that?
So I mean, possibly even before you start writing, you should be thinking about how you want to publish it, because that will depend on what audience you're writing for, what genre you're using, what the publisher is particularly interested in terms of themes and topics. So it's actually good to know who's going to publish it before you even start.
Right.
That's not always possible because sometimes a publisher will want the whole manuscript before they make a decision, but at least you can have a general idea of who
Right.
you're aiming at.
Right.
And obviously books, journal articles, book chapters are all different. So I will, for example, study the journal, the academic journal, and see what themes that they're interested in. Regarding books, there's probably 3 different ways that you can publish. I mean, I'm sure there's others, but 3 that I can think of. First would be unsolicited manuscripts. So you would find a publisher that you think would be interested in your manuscript, and you can look on the website, and if it says that they'll accept unsolicited manuscripts, then you can submit it that way. And normally you'll have to wait probably 6 months up to a year to hear back from them before you, and whether they accept it. If they reject it, then you can send it to someone else. Then there is solicited manuscripts, so a publisher will ask an author to write something, so that's fine if you're J.K. Rowling or someone famous, but that doesn't tend to happen to everybody. And then the third way is to self-publish, and that has a bit of a bad rap because people don't think that it's as prestigious as going with a publisher to self-publish, but it actually has a lot of advantages. You can say whatever you want, basically. You're not limited to what the publisher wants you to say, and you can be in your time frame as well. So you're not, if you have a deadline or a particular point that you want to launch the book, then you can make your own timeline for that. And it just gives you more freedom, I think, than going with a publisher. But obviously, with a highly respected publisher, then the book is going to have a lot of credibility and prestige associated with it. So, it really just depends which way you want to go.
Do you think that usually people go with a publisher purely for the amount of advertisement they're going to get for it?
Yeah, so that's always helpful if the publisher will help you with promotions, but the publisher will always ask you how you're going to promote the book because they want you to promote it as well. But if they have international networks and contacts, then that's always going to be good as well. Yeah.
So you could potentially, as a self-publisher, you could potentially promote your book more than any other publisher would.
Yeah, I mean, for example, I know a lot of people who self-publish, but they're preaching to, tens of thousands of people, so they
that's enough promotion of itself.
Yeah, I mean, they can promote it themselves. They don't need to go with the publisher.
Yeah.
Another really important thing is to get other people to proofread it.
Yeah.
So my most recent book on Andrew Evans, I had 7 different people proofread it.
Wow.
Who had different experiences and takes on it and expertise, and even the 7th person found errors and grammar mistakes. I think really. So just get other people to look at it and proofread it yourself.
Yeah.
There's nothing worse than it being after it's printed and there's a spelling mistake.
Yeah, I've read a couple of books where you're like, that's not meant to be there.
Yeah, it just forms a block in the reader's mind that we don't want there.
Yeah, well, that's great. You mentioned your most recent book about Andrew Evans.
Yes.
Would you be able to tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So Andrew Evans was the General Superintendent of the Assemblies of God of Australia for 20 years. So 1977 to 1997, during which time it was the fastest growing Christian movement in Australia, and also during that time overtook the Church of England as the second largest church attendance denomination in Australia, behind Roman Catholics. So phenomenal figure. He was also a senior pastor of his own church, Paradise Assemblies of God, in Adelaide for 30 years.
Wow.
So that was, he made a phenomenal impact in Adelaide. And he was on the World Assemblies of God Council. He preached in Yonggi Cho's Yoido Full Gospel Assembly in South Korea, largest church in the world. And then after he left, resigned from ministry, he started the Family First political party in Adelaide. And he won as a legislative councillor and held the balance of power in the South Australian state government. And then of course Family First went on to federal politics as well and was very successful there. So he's a key religious and political figure in Australia.
Right.
He received the Order of Australia, and it was just an absolute privilege. I think I did over 30 hours of interviews with him, oral history interviews with him, but I also interviewed a lot of his family, church members, other pastors and leaders, national leaders and political figures, and so that was a great privilege as well. And his parents were missionaries, long-term missionaries in India and Papua New Guinea, so I did a lot of archival research about his growing up. He was also, he and his wife Lorraine were missionaries in Papua New Guinea as well for 7 years. So yeah, it was a great story. Very easy to make that interesting when he's done so much and accomplished so much, and just an absolutely delightful man.
If you want to buy that or just find out more about that, the book is has launched. It's available.
Yes, it's called Jesus First: The Life and Leadership of Andrew Evans, and it's available on Amazon, hard copy and ebook.
Yay! I'll post a link to that down below, and feel free to check it out. But for now, thank you for watching. Thank you, Mum, for joining me.
Thanks, Jess.
If you want to see more things like this, I'm actually starting up a series called Coffee with Friends. And so if you guys have any topics that you want me to talk about, or bring some friends along to talk about, just leave a comment below, and I will see you in my next vlog. Bye, guys!